All right. Well, I'll do it short and sweet. Whoever heard it, didn't hear it. We still have my bracket is pretty much the same as it was. I got most of these picks right. I have basically all the major picks right. Right now, our Sweet 16 is right on board. Houston versus Miami Friday night at 7:15. Xavier versus Texas Longhorns Friday night at 9:45. So that's what I had. Houston, even though they've been banged up, they've been able to play through a lot of the pain and the injuries. They were able to win their 1-16 match versus North Kentucky pretty easily. They were able to knock off Auburn and out of the SEC, get to the Sweet 16. Miami was able to outlast Drake from Degrassi fame, the glorious Jewish rapper.
Drake.
One of my fellow Jewish people that I love so much, Drake. Miami was able to knock off Drake. Then they were able to knock off Indiana. So my only real pick that I got wrong here, I was trying to reach for an upset. I picked for 13 seed Kent State to not Clark Kent, but Kent State to knock off Indiana. That was wrong. I'll be first to admit that. But Indiana Hoosiers, they got to round 2, but Miami was able to outlast them and dominate them in round 2 to get Sweet 16. Then the lower half of the bracket, as you've been talking them up, Pitt Panthers, they've done a heck of a job. They won their first 4 matchup against Mississippi State in the playing game. They've battled through a lot of injuries. Then they were able to knock off the Iowa State Cyclones in an 11 seed over a 6 seed in the first round matchup. They got to round 2. They played Xavier very tough yesterday. Xavier in the end was able to pull away late, win by 11 points. Xavier's just a tough team, so Pitt gave them everything they could ask for. They played them real tough, but Xavier goes on these nice long runs in March Madness in these tournaments. So props to Pitt Panthers for a great season. Xavier was able to outlast them, get to the Sweet 16 like I had. And then also Penn State. We are Penn State, as I cover Penn State Scranton, one of their satellite campuses in Electric City.
Yeah.
They were able to knock off Texas A&M. It was their first time in the NCAA tournament since 2011, 12 years, a dozen years, because they were going to make it in 2020, but then COVID shut down the world, knocked the whole tournament out. So they were going to make the tournament that year. So it's been 12 years. Finally got to the tournament after almost knocking off Purdue, which we now know was ripe for an upset. Almost beat them and lost in overtime in their conference tournament game in the Big Ten on Selection Sunday. We were able to beat Texas A&M Aggies, a 10 versus 7 seed. Didn't just beat them. They destroyed them. They won by double digits. So it was a 17-point victory. Penn State crushed them, dominated them. So that was a heck of a win. First NCAA tournament win for them in 22 years when they played North Carolina, who had future NFL Hall of Famer Julius Peppers, who was playing on the North Carolina Tar Heels basketball team, and then gave Texas Longhorns a heck of a run. Texas was able to knock off Colgate, not the toothpaste. You covered Colgate, talked to their coach and their team. They went on a nice run this year. They were able to beat Colgate pretty easily in round 1. But in round 2, the Nittany Lions of Penn State in Happy Valley gave them a heck of a run, took back the lead late in that game. But in the end, Texas Longhorns made a couple of key shots. We were able to prevail by a close 5-point margin. Texas really was challenged hard by Penn State. So Texas survived. So now we got Xavier versus Texas like I had. And I'm going to still go with what I picked. I'm going to go with Houston Cougars. Miami to keep it close in the first half. The Cougars, if they can stay healthy, pull away in the second half and win by double digits. And I think Xavier versus Texas will be the closer matchup in the Midwest Sweet 16 matchup. I think Xavier wins by 3 points, wins late, a close ball game, and I think it's going to be Xavier versus Houston. And the Cougars are going to knock off Xavier to go to the Final Four and then basically have a home Final Four in Houston, Texas come the beginning of April.
Yeah, and I have, with this as well, looking at my bracket here, I have obviously Houston that I've chosen. I had Indiana here. Miami was such a better team, and they played so much better. Before the game even started, I felt good about Miami. I've covered them. I've covered Jim Larinaga. I don't know why I picked Indiana at all, because Miami was the better team, and there were 6 ties in the second half after Indiana had never, 6 lead changes in the second half, 6 lead changes after Indiana had never led in the first half. And then all of a sudden Miami was up by 10 and they took over. And at one point, nobody guarded Nigel Pack, and he just went to the basket by himself when they still had an opportunity and trying to make a comeback and put him on the free throw line. So I don't know what was going on with Indiana, but Miami was clearly the better team. And Xavier, Lord knows I picked that Xavier. So I went there, and Texas moving on as well. So a lot of great stuff here. And I actually have for you all, folks, I told you from the movie The Draft Day that in the movie Draft Day, Kevin Costner writes on a Post-it note, Vontae Mack no matter what. And I have for you this morning the napkin that I wrote on that I said, last week. I did this before, before I finished my bracket. So here is my napkin. Let me make sure you can see this here. So here's the napkin that says Houston, no matter what. I wrote this on a napkin before the bracket was even done. I wrote down Houston, no matter what. This is what I've thought for weeks. People asked me about stuff, and I was talking about the Houston Cougars. Anytime anybody asked me anything about the field, about the tournament, the first name that came to mind was Houston. So I have Houston, no matter what, here on this napkin. I've kept this napkin next to me as I've watched all the games. So,
might be a very valuable napkin if Calvin Sampson and the Cougars end up winning the national championship. So that's pretty good. I have a lot of confidence in them too, and should be fun to see what they do. But yeah, just like we mentioned last week, that draft day movie. Love that movie with Kevin Costner, late great Chadwick Boseman, all these great actors, great lines in that movie. The Cleveland Browns are they make so many great trades and get rid of.
It was the best draft that they've had since Jim Brown and Ernie Davis. It was the best draft they've had, and they never had it in real life.
It was a fantasy draft, but it worked out great. But I very much love that. In the end, you saw, and I know it's 9 years old, so it's not much of a spoiler. It was always going to be his number one pick. Everyone thought he was going to take. They all thought it was going to be the quarterback. He was like, "I believe in you," and that you've always shown your confidence in the Houston Cougars that they're going to prevail this year in the March Madness tournament.
Yeah. So my Houston, no matter what. Houston moves on, playing up against Miami. That's going to be a good game, and so will Xavier, Texas. Don't count out Xavier by any stretch of the imagination, folks. A team that I can say, one of my dad's friends, Rick, growing up, he loved watching Xavier, and I went into his house, and I'll never forget standing in front of the TV and watching Xavier really for the first time that time, and they've always been on my radar. Really appreciate what they've done. Love that they're a part of the Big East, even though I know they're not a traditional East Coast team, but love Xavier being there. Really happy for them. A lot of great stuff. In the West bracket, as we bring you the drive all the way through the tournament, and we are driving from the first four to the round of 64 to the round of 32 into the Sweet 16, giving you an update on all the teams that have moved on as of last night. The Kansas Jayhawks, let's start to right. Kansas, oh, just kidding. It's Arkansas. So Arkansas is moving on here, as they will keep it going here. Arkansas moving on here. You got to put that A and you got to put that R in front of Kansas as they
put that W for win or V for victory, because Arkansas was superior than Kansas on this day. So
and you got to think about it. You got to think about we are AR Arkansas. So they're moving forward. So Arkansas moving on in this tournament. They will face off against the uptick, resurgent under Dan Hurley, UConn Huskies. A lot of Husky fans in the state of New York. A lot of Husky fans in the MVP Arena in Albany. A lot of Husky fans around my dad and I. And it was really weird. It felt like we went behind enemy lines because it was a very strange. It was just a very strange place to be. And I looked at my dad and I was like, I can appreciate UConn. I appreciate Dan Hurley. But to be not that far away from Syracuse and hear this many people cheering for UConn makes you feel like when Captain America would say Hail Hydra. It's just very strange. Doesn't make sense. And then we looked at the bottom of the West bracket and who came out of this one. The Gonzaga Bulldogs, after TCU gave them a good game, which I thought it would be. The Gonzaga Bulldogs prevailed. And listen, a good game all the way to the end. The last second three-point shot fell for TCU, so they end up losing 84-81. Mind you, a shot like that fell when Syracuse defeated a team in their bracket when they won 20 years ago as a 3 seed in the national championship. Gonzaga's a 3 seed that just had that happen in the round of 32. I think it was the same round as well, where I think it was Oklahoma State for Syracuse. In this case, for Gonzaga, it was TCU. So a Big 12 team going up against a 3 seed hits a three-pointer at the buzzer that doesn't matter because they still win. And 20 years ago, that was on the road to Syracuse winning their first national championship. Could it be for Gonzaga? Just painting a little picture of history for you. They're going to go up against the UCLA Bruins, and I had the opportunity for the first time ever to speak with Mick Cronin, so I want to appreciate him for that. Arkansas, UConn, Gonzaga, UCLA, which is 8 seed, 4 seed, 3 seed, 2 seed, and not the reigning national champion. Your thoughts, buddy?
Yeah, I was surprised. I didn't have Kansas repeat as national champions, but I thought they were going to get to the Elite Eight before they got to Gonzaga. And I know a lot of people were down on Gonzaga, that this was a down year for them, but I don't ever count them out in this tournament. I don't always have trust in them in a big spot, like in the Elite Eight, Final Four, to win it all. And they've gone to the national championship game and haven't quite been able to get over the top. But Mark Few has went from that little underdog team to now becoming a powerhouse. Year after year, they at least get to the Sweet 16. I think it's been 7 tournaments in a row. And you had their star big man who came back out of the NBA draft to come back for this year to have unfinished business and try to win a national title at Gonzaga. So very excited that the Gonzaga Bulldogs have done so far, gone to Sweet 16. Kansas is always a tough spot. As you mentioned, Bill Self, they said something going on with like a heart procedure he had, and even more, way more important than sports and who's winning or losing. You just hope he's okay for his family's sake, for his sake, that he'll be all right and he can return to coaching when he's completely healthy, because he wasn't able to coach in this tournament. If they would have went deeper, I don't know if he would have been cleared to coach. But it was a tough situation for Bill Self. But he's a beloved coach. He's won like 2 national titles for the Kansas Jayhawks. So they were able to win their first round match against Howard, but then they got knocked off by Arkansas or Kansas, and that was a pretty big upset. I didn't expect that to happen. You wonder if in any way losing their coach, if that kind of messed their mojo up, Kansas. But either way, you can't discredit what Arkansas did. Arkansas played great. They deserved to win. And either way, they could have ended up winning that game, regardless of how whole Kansas was coming into that game. But Arkansas with a big upset. And then I was hoping that another little engine that credit Cinderella team, VCU of recent fame, was able to make a run in this tournament, but that didn't happen. St. Mary's knocked them off pretty easily in the first round, the 5-12 matchup. We didn't have a 12 seed knock off a 5 seed, but then UConn was able to survive, beat Iona, and that's interesting because Iona is a little school in New York City, and kind of what we were predicting, that Rick Pitino, they didn't win that game, but they kept it close for a while. Rick Pitino now, basically, they said it's pretty much a done deal. You said he was going to hide away in a small school where people might forget his allegations of some of the scandals he's gone into. They said it's pretty much a done deal. He'll be the new St. John's head coach. He's going to get to coach in the Big East, coach in Madison Square Garden again. And it's like everything is back to normal again. Who knows if St. John's will get to return to prominence like they were back in the day. But he gets to coach in a major market, New York City, in the mecca of basketball, Madison Square Garden. And it's like all has been forgotten for all the indiscretions he's done. So you called it last week, and Rick Pitino, on the web, Iona wasn't able to get it done against UConn, but he's back, and he's going to be coaching the Big East. But UConn was able to prevail. UConn's making a heck of a run. They had those great years with Jim Calhoun as their head coach. And now, so that's impressive. And then, Gonzaga. Always bet on Gonzaga. They're going to always make a run no matter if they're up or down during the year. So I'm excited what Gonzaga's be able to do. Love to see them finally get over the top and finally win this whole thing. But I think they're at least going to get to the Final Four. And then UCLA, always a dangerous team. And I love that they're getting back to prominence from back in the John Wooden years. Let's see if they can compete for a national title. But, right now, out of the matchups, it's going to be Arkansas versus UConn on Thursday night at 7:15. I'd have to go with UConn to win that game in a close ball game. And then Gonzaga against UCLA Thursday night, 9:45 p.m. I'm going to go with Gonzaga to edge out UCLA in a razor-sharp close game. Whoever has the ball last is going to win that game. And I think Gonzaga wins that one, and it's going to be Gonzaga over UConn in a heck of an Elite Eight matchup to go to the Final Four at Houston, Texas. But UConn's back to prominence, so that's exciting for all the people who root for them, especially on the East Coast. And I think they're going to have a chance here, but I'm going to still I'm going to stay with Mark Few and Gonzaga and their big man senior who's back for unfinished business. They're going to get this done, and they're going to get to Houston, Texas for the Final Four out of that bracket. Yeah,
the beauty of these first 3 pieces of the bracket that Ross and I were talking about, South, Midwest, and the West, is that we still have the team that we have coming through the bracket. We still have them prevailing. We had them originally, and they're still there. So we have Alabama coming out of the South. That's who we picked originally. We originally picked coming out of the Midwest, Houston, and we picked coming out of the West, Gonzaga. So all of those 3 stay alive. Ross and I in the Sweet 16 of over 360 schools have 3 of our Final 4 still alive in the Sweet 16, which I'd say is pretty darn good. So I'm very happy about that. Very happy to see that happen. So obviously Gonzaga I have here too, so I'm going to circle this twice. But On the other side of it, the Arkansas UConn matchup, Musselman and Dan Hurley. Oh, this is going to be a good game. Hurley, who goes all the way down the court on the sideline, who is extremely animated, versus Eric Musselman, who takes his shirt off and shows those muscles to the world. There is so much in this game that's going to be fun, and it's going to be two very passionate coaches. That, not that every coach isn't passionate, but you see the passion of these coaches on the sideline. I'm excited for this. And UConn has been a good team. UConn's got the inside play. They got the outside play. They couldn't miss threes down the stretch. Felt like they were making every single one of them. And then you have Arkansas, who's been pretty darn good too. But I agree with you, Ross. I think it's going to be UConn and Gonzaga. And we both picked Gonzaga originally. But to look at this updated bracket, I think it's going to be UConn and Gonzaga. I could see this definitely happening. And so it'll be exciting to see as we step forward. And we'll step forward on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora right after this fast break where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here. And thank you so much for being a part of the show. For anybody that was tuning in and caught it right in the middle of my rant about a company called Rectum, I will not say their name because they're not a sponsor. And they will never be a sponsor because of their terrible service. But I'm happy to be back here on the internet with you. And this is not a witch hunt. It's not me to be angry and mean, so I'm sorry if it came across that way. I just want them to do what they promised us. And if you're going to raise our prices twice in a pandemic, and you're going to make my $49 internet $84, and it's going to go down in service, when you double my internet, the least you can do is actually give me some type of good service that I can count on. When I go to hotel rooms, my internet will upload one of my videos on my show in a half an hour. At home, it takes 3 hours. So it's absolutely ridiculous. Do better. In my studio, it's 3 hours. So got the same internet at home as I have in the studio. Not a fan of what's going on. And I just want people to charge appropriately, treat their customers well, and make sure their service works, especially if you're going to raise the price. So do better, Rectum.
A lot of people can relate, buddy, because I think most people hate their internet provider that moves too slow for them and goes out very easily, especially if they're storing weather. And most people hate their cable provider. So I think a lot of people can identify with your rant, and you have every right to be annoyed and frustrated with them because it's ridiculous how expensive it all is, and sometimes the service is pretty crappy.
And they keep
I think a lot of people believe that.
Yeah, so I mean, I hope when I call today that I'll finally get a person that actually gives a you-know-what about the customer, because I talked to one person on there. I told him about all the issues. He sat in silence. He did nothing, and he sat in silence. So I'm really hoping that they will care. I'm hoping that, and I told them, not only am I paying for the internet overpriced, but I'm paying for the internet, I'm paying increases in the internet, and you keep increasing my price, and the quality keeps going down. So the price goes up, the quality goes down, and nobody seems to care. Nobody seems to answer questions. They've come to, they literally came to check the equipment. They go, is this your equipment or ours? I'm like, it says your name on the back of the equipment. And so and then they're like, who installed this? This was installed wrong. Did you install this? I'm like, no. Again, you guys did. And then they're like, what are all these wires? And I'm like, a question for you guys again. And then they're like,
you should know who installed it. I think it's pretty bad if you're like, how did this happen? What does this wire mean? Yeah. I'm like, that's a question that I should give, but I'm oblivious to technology. Yeah. Or my 90-year-old grandma should be oblivious to technology. But if you who know what you're doing and installed it, that should not be a question that you ask the customer.
It's honestly like somebody eating a bunch of ghost peppers, sitting in the toilet going, who did this to us? You did. You did.
You did this to yourself, yes.
Yeah, so
if you eat the ghost peppers, you're going to be in the bathroom for a while. So you did that to yourself.
All I'm saying is that Rectum internet and cable is the ghost pepper to our internet streaming service. So
that's a very good analogy. That should be on the SATs. I think that's a perfect analogy.
So we're going to take a step aside for a fast break. Ross and I will be back to talk to you about the final bracket, the East. The reason why I saved it is because we made our craziest picks in the East, and the picks that we made were not as crazy as what happened in reality. And this is the part of the bracket where I thought Ross and I could be wrong here more than anywhere else. And we were. and we'll discuss it after this. The East Bracket coming up on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Coupal Studios to round out this edition of The Drive as we drive you all the way through the tournament to the championship game and beyond on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora with myself and Ross Turetsky right after this. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout Central and Upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. This is a special message from 317 at Montgomery restaurant owner Joel Carpenter. Open Tuesday through Saturday for your dining pleasure on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York.
We wanted to be a part of the resurgence of Syracuse. We saw a lot of money being put into bringing people back downtown and thought that, we'd like to be a part of that. I love putting together a good dish where people see it first, they fall in love with it, and then it tastes just as good as it looks. We want to provide the best food in Syracuse that we possibly can, and we want you to leave here talking to your family, your friends about what you had to eat first and foremost, but also our service, and to walk out feeling like you're part of our family. I work out in the front of the house a lot, and I love walking to every single table, asking them how everything is, and people looking at me and smiling and saying, this is the most amazing short rib I've ever had. This is the most amazing filet I've ever had. And Donna is great. Sarah's amazing. Thank you for coming over and talking to us. And then them just being truly happy for the experience that they've gotten.
317 at Montgomery Restaurant. part of the fabric of downtown Syracuse, located on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York. Open Tuesday through Saturday for a unique and memorable dining experience.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecabal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cabal needs. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios, hanging out with you where sports meets that thing called life. Appreciate you being here as Ross and I bring you through the drive as we've done for over a decade. And we are driving through this year's NCAA Tournament 2023 NCAA Division I Men's Basketball Tournament as we have gone and updated for you what's gone on in the South, the Midwest, and the West, where we have our final four teams from those regions all still alive. We picked Alabama. We both picked Alabama in the South. Both picked them in the Midwest. In the Midwest, both picked Houston. I have this napkin here, folks, that has been with me this whole time, so you can go back and hear me talk about it and check the tape and all that good stuff. Houston, no matter what. I want to make sure you can see it here. Can you see it? Houston, no matter what. This is my napkin that I wrote on. So this is here with me, just like you saw in draft day, Vontae Mack, no matter what. I had Houston, no matter what. Weeks ago was thinking about Houston before they even picked the field. And I have Houston winning my national championship. So does Ross. And Gonzaga, them Bulldogs. We picked them, and they bulled it out last night. They definitely did. Took down the Horned Frogs of Jamie Dixon on a fantastic play by TCU, who had never won back-to-back NCAA tournament games ever, which is insane. And so hopefully that history will change for them as they move.
Like last week, we wanted to scream out to scare Coach Dixon.
Oh, yeah.
See if he turn around if they would eject you from the arena.
Yeah, no, that's the thing too. Is we were talking to people about that if you had the opportunity, can you just in a nice way, not in a mean way, but in a nice way, could you do it pre-game so you're not bothering him during the game? Yeah.
But it's a close game, like a 2-point game, final possession, 3.2 seconds left on the clock. Give out a loud and proud, Jimmy, and see what happens.
Yeah. And for people that don't know that is from Jingle All the Way, and it is Arnold Schwarzenegger, yelling out, Jamie! So I love it so much, but
You give no context. You shouldn't give any background information. You either know it or don't know it. The movie's from 1996. It's a glorious, insane holiday movie. Sinbad's in it. The late, great Phil Hartman is in it. Rita Wilson, Tom Hanks' wife's in it. A lot of great stuff. It's 27 years old. You either love it or don't know it. Either way, just scream out, Jamie! And no context. You either know it or don't get it. Either way, let people enjoy it.
Somebody
So
talks.
they enjoy it.
Somebody talks to my parents and they're like, "Hey, we heard Dan's show today." They're like, "Oh, what'd you think?" "Oh, it was great. You know, it was great. It was a great show. It's just one part I didn't understand. Him and this one guy that came on the show, I believe it was Ross, just kept yelling out, Jamie!" But they're like, "I don't know."
I guess I'm insane. I don't know. I've gone insane. I've screwed out Jamie with no reason at all. Who knows?
And it's funny because when we're really old and, you know, let's say we're like in our 90s or whatever, and we're both sitting there and out of nowhere, we'll take turns just going, Jamie! And they're like, oh, do they have Alzheimer's? They're like, no, they're quoting Jingle All the Way, you idiot. Like, you know, they're totally fine. There's nothing wrong with them.
They're just going to put the straitjackets on us and we're going to be sent back to our groups. They're not going to understand any of those references at that point.
Listen, I was talking to my dad. We were having a conversation about what's going on in today's America. And I said, there's things that people say today where people are like, aw, that's so great for you. Where in the past, people would have been like, why don't you put this straitjacket on? Okay? If someone's like, I think I'm a camel. Yeah, okay, Bill. If you went into a school and you said, I think I'm a cat, I would like to sit in a litter box while I learn social studies today, they would, number one, talk to your parents. They would call Child Protective Services. And if you were an adult, they would say, why don't you go ahead and see if this fits? And put that straitjacket on you. So I'm all about people being who they are. But when you want to be a cat when you grow up, somebody messed up in parenting. And so we need to talk about that. I mean, that's a parent-teacher conference. If they're like, Mr. Tortora, we need to talk about how your son thinks he's a turtle, and instead of learning, he just puts his head inside of his sweatshirt all day. Like, that's ridiculous.
I want to be a turtle. My dream as a kid was always to be a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle.
That's different.
I want to be Leonardo, the leader. My son loves color red, so he wants to be Raphael. Michelangelo, who's the silly one, and of course Donatello. Hey, I'll be a turtle, but I'll be a Ninja Turtle because they're really cool. They know karate, and they eat pizza all day. So that's pretty awesome.
That's different because they talk, because they know karate, because they know the secrets of the ooze, because they save the world, because they fight good against evil. We're talking about people that are like, I just want to sit in a litter box because it's a Tuesday. No, not sitting in a litter box.
You know what Ninja Turtles is? I know most people at least have heard of Ninja Turtles. They think you're insane with what you just said about secret ooze and this and that. We're talking about they have a sensei master who's also a rat, a talking rat who stands and walks. I'm like, it sounds insane, like someone who was stoned out of their mind created Ninja Turtles. But it's a beautiful story.
Here's the thing, though. Does that sound insane? Or does it sound insane that we're allowing kids to dress up like cats and sit in litter boxes in classrooms? What's more insane to you? Turtles getting powers or real life people thinking that they're cats? I would go...
I want to be a Ninja Turtle. I want to have those powers. So whatever gets me to become a Ninja Turtle, I'm all for that.
I remember when LJ
wants it too. He's like, I really want to be Raphael.
I love it. That's why he's a fantastic nephew of mine. I will say this. When I went and got my COVID shot, the lady said to me, she goes, do you have any questions? I said, not a question, more like a comment. And she was not in the adventurous mood to have fun that day. And she had the needle in her hand and she goes, what? Okay, what is that? And I said, you better hope if anything happens to me as a side effect to this shot, that it's superpowers. I said, if anything happens to me from getting this shot, I hope that it opens up my mutant gene and I come back here with wings or the ability to teleport. She didn't think it was funny. She didn't even move her face, Ross. And I was like, where's the joy of thinking about Ninja Turtles and mutants and superpowers? You know, it would be cool. That would be really awesome.
It was the pandemic, though, so it was a very dark period of time. So a lot of people.
I was trying to lighten her mood. I'm sure people yelled at her all day.
I'm sure. So at least you were trying to be friendly about it. I'm sure there were very nasty people to her. So you were trying to be friendly. I think it was a very dark period where a lot of people weren't laughing. When I was doing stand-up comedy, a lot of people would laugh, a lot of people would not laugh at all. So I can identify where you think you're making a really funny joke, and the crowd does not get it at all. And they have just a straight, stone-cold face with no smirk even. And so that's the worst feeling in the world, when you think you've told a very funny joke, and you don't even get a smirk, never mind a chuckle.
No. And if you want to grow up and you want to be a Ninja Turtle, you can learn karate.
You be a Ninja Turtle.
Yeah.
Whether you're 2 years old or 102 years old, you go and be a Ninja Turtle.
Because that's something. That's something. That is not sitting in a litter box in a class. I love how it's, what is it, Wisconsin? They're like, we're not going to allow kids to sit in litter boxes. And people are like, we're going to riot. And I was like, there are other things. There is 400 plus years of African Americans and the way they've been treated in this country. I would much rather petition for the goodness of all people and all humankind than petition that my child gets to be a cat in a litter box. So it's ridiculous.
All I wanted to mention is right now I'm watching with my son this amazing show talking about superpowers on Disney Junior called Super Kitties. It's amazing, and I highly recommend it. Whether you're stoned or not stoned, this is a very hilarious show. So I recommend tune in to Super Kitties because this show is amazing. There's 4 little cats. They all have superpowers. They're fighting a guy named Lab Rat right now. There's Mr. Puppy Paws. There's a Jaja, a crazy bird. This is an amazing show. So you're talking about superpowers. I've moved on from Ninja Turtles. I want to be a super kitty now. You're talking about cats? I want to become a super kitty now. That's what LJ and I both agree. We want to be Ninja Turtles and we want to be super kitties. So, and I would tell you, watch the show. New episodes Friday at 11:30 on Disney Junior. You have to be out of your mind if you're an adult watching this. But hey, I'm watching it with my son, and I feel insane, but I love this show. Watch some Super Kitties.
I would rather you watch that TV show than you be a teacher with kids in litter boxes looking up at you while you teach them math.
Yeah, I'll tell you the names. There's a kid named Sparks. The cute one's Bitsy. There's a Buddy. And who's the other one? Ginny is the 4th one. Kind of like from Forrest Gump fame. So those are the 4 names of these cats, and they're amazing. So watch some Super Kitties, and it will make you smile. And in this very nasty world sometimes, it will make your day. You'll have the greatest day of your life if you watch some Super Kitties. So forget it in my picks for the March Madness. I'm telling you, make the pick to change your life for the better. Watch some Super Kitties. And I'm not paid by Disney to say this. I might be out of my mind. I'm half asleep because LJ wakes me up at like 4 in the morning every day. But I'm telling you, this is a fun show.
Yeah, well, listen, that's great. Like I said, superpowers, fantastic thing. Let a kid have their imagination. But no litter boxes. That's not going to happen in my world. So the East bracket. Speaking of the crazy things that have happened, Ross and I made the craziest of our picks. Yes.
We were going to have to be put in an institute. It went crazier. What actually happened is 10 times crazier than our picks.
Yeah, we said in the East bracket, and again, Ross and I don't see each other's bracket before, so we do it in real time. So the fact that we picked the same Final Four and the same championship and the same champion was insane because it's not something that we know ahead of time. In this bracket, Ross's picks were by far the most wily, and in my bracket, the same thing with the East bracket, where we made crazy picks. Both of us did, but they were different. Like I was talking about, even though I picked Duke, I was like Oral Roberts has a shot. So this was the bracket where we were genuinely individually crazy, and the bracket was crazier than our craziest picks. So we thought that Purdue was the most vulnerable 1 seed, and they were the 4th overall, so they were the 4th 1 seed.
But not in the first round.
No, I had them in the second. I had them in the second round, losing to Memphis. So we thought Purdue was vulnerable. I talked about Marquette and a little concern with Vermont, not the whole game, but part of it. And, you look at Michigan State, Tom Izzo, and can you really ever count them out? And then Kentucky not being the Kentucky that they used to be. Then you have Duke and you have Tennessee. Now, originally, before I penned in my bracket, before I solidified my bracket, earlier in the week, I was thinking about Duke going to the Final Four. Thank God that I didn't put that in. But, I mean, you think about this bracket and what this bracket did to people, what it did to people that had Marquette, what it did to people that had Kentucky, people had Duke, people had Purdue. There were people in our bracket challenge for the Wake Up Call Bracket Challenge internationally that picked Purdue to win the entire thing. I don't know why they did. Apparently they didn't listen to the show. So, FAU, Tennessee, Kansas State, Michigan State. There is reality that a lot of people picked 0% of this Final Four in the East. We have a 9 seed, a 4 seed, a 3 seed, and a 7 seed that are in this thing. So the high
one that I got right was Tennessee. I actually had Tennessee beat Louisiana in round 1, 4 versus 13 matchup, and I did have them beat Duke in round 2. So that's the only one of these 4 teams left in the East bracket that I have right. Tennessee Volunteers. The other 3, not even close.
Yeah, no, and this bracket for me is all kinds of red. This looks like I slept through a test. And I mean, so when you go back and you look at this bracket for
Marked up your paper, yeah.
Oh yeah, there is no, and I usually have one piece of the bracket every year that's just like totally red. And not totally red, but like somebody loses and that team went to my Final Four. So one of my brackets usually has red all over it. And it's the East bracket for me. I had Duke versus... Here's the craziest thing, okay? I had Duke versus Tennessee, which was right. And I had Kentucky versus Kansas State, which was right. And then I had Marquette I had Marquette. I didn't have Michigan State, and I didn't have Fairleigh Dickinson or FAU. But here's the thing: after Duke, Tennessee, Kentucky, Kansas State, and Marquette, after all of those were right, of the 8 teams, I had 5 of them right. Literally nothing's right after that. Okay, didn't have FAU, didn't have Tennessee winning, didn't have Kansas State winning, didn't have Michigan State winning, which I don't know why I picked against that. I was hoping in Marquette and hoping in what they've done in the Big East as regular season champions and conference tournament champions. But again, Ross and I have 3 of our 4 Final Four in the Sweet 16, which I would say is good prediction on our part. But
75% is pretty good. But yeah, I was going with Shaka Smart's Marquette team, who went on that nice run to win the Big East Conference Championship at the Garden the other week. And Shaka Smart is a heck of a young coach, but in his last few stops as head coach, he goes to a certain point and goes far, but the teams have fallen short when a lot of people thought Marquette was going to go deep in this tournament. Again, what did I tell you last week? Don't ever count out Tom Izzo and the Michigan State Spartans. Michigan State, whether they're mediocre during the regular season or not, they find a way to get in the tournament and cause problems in the tournament. They're a physical team. They know how to win. Tom Izzo knows how to get the most out of his team, whether they're mediocre talent or super talented teams. And this team, I had Michigan State win 1 matchup against USC, and I know you picked USC to win that game. I had them being 7 seed Michigan State, knocking off 10 seed USC Trojans. That was it. They found a way to knock off Marquette, which is amazing. And I would not be shocked at all if he for a long time, he was one of the Final Four almost every year. And he won that 1 national title with Martin Cleaves from 2000. The only coach left in this tournament who's won a national championship is Tom Izzo. And Tom Izzo, I think, is going to go to the Final Four out of this bracket. With all the craziness, I would not be shocked at all if the Spartans prevail and get to Houston, Texas out of the East bracket.
Well, and this is the thing. This is like the most unlike. There's been other years where I could have said this, but this is definitely, to me, probably the most unlikely year that anybody thought that Michigan State would make it to the Final Four and they could win the national championship, which is insane. That here's Tom Izzo again. And I told people, if you wanted to see a 16 seed win more often, put Michigan State as a 16, because it doesn't matter where you, and I've said this for years upon years. Go and check the tape 4 or 5 years ago. I have said Michigan State as a 7 seed, a 10 seed, a 3 seed, a 4 seed, an 8 seed, a 1 seed. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you put Tom Izzo. It doesn't matter, because he is so good. And I wrote that. Tom is so good. I wrote that story. He's incredible. He is incredible wherever you put him. You could make him a 17 seed. You could you could change the whole bracket and throw him in there. Tom Izzo, you could tell him that he has to play 4 first 4 games, and he has to win in Dayton 4 times just to get into the round of 64, and he'll do it. He exudes
confidence, and that confidence rubs off to his program. His basketball team believes, even if they have marginal talented players compared to like a superstar team, they believe they can compete and beat anyone. Kind of like what I say with Princeton is dangerous up in the South bracket. They think they could beat anyone. I believe Michigan State every year in the tournament believes they could knock off anyone. And right now, it's wide open, this East bracket. What's to stop them from winning it? Yeah. Marquette is out. Purdue is out. Tennessee's a pretty decent team, but who knows if they're even going to get past Florida Atlantic in the Sweet 16 matchup. And Kansas State, I don't want to totally poo-poo Kansas State, but Kansas State Wildcats, they were able to knock off Kentucky last night in a close ball game. But I think Michigan State's going to get out of this. Right now, if I had a pick, I would go with Tennessee, not going to Florida Atlantic, even though I'm rooting for the underdog, Florida Atlantic, to win.
Yeah.
I'd give Tennessee a slight advantage to win that, to go to the Elite Eight. And I would go with Michigan State to win a physical matchup over Kansas State, and Michigan State to knock off Tennessee to go to the Final Four. And this is besides the point that in this bracket, we had a 16 seed being a 1 seed. Purdue, did you see what they did in their locker room? They punched a hole in their chalkboard. They were annoyed. They couldn't believe they got embarrassed after Virginia happened 5 years ago. Yeah. 5 years later, a second 16 seed is knocked off a 1 seed. Purdue, I thought, was going to get knocked out early. I thought they were highly overrated, and they were number 1 team throughout the season a lot of the year. I did not think that Fairleigh Dickinson was going to win, but kudos to Fairleigh Dickinson. That's amazing. Another small New Jersey school like Princeton, like St. Peter's last year, and now Fairleigh Dickinson prevails as a big underdog. Yep. But in the end, I think Tom Izzo and Michigan State, they're going to get out to the Final Four. I might be crazy, but out of these teams that are left, I believe they have the pedigree to do it. They have the confidence to do it, and I think they're going to go to the Final Four out of the East bracket.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, Alabama, Michigan State, pretty cool. So, I mean, looking at this FA...
He win another national title, as I said earlier. He's the only coach left who's won a national title, so what's to stop him from being able to do that again?
Yeah, no, it's of a year that's been, parity to a T for college basketball. This has been such an incredible thing, and I am so proud of all the work that Tom Izzo's done. Him interviewing Mark Few, he was on that he was on that list for me of coaches I wanted to interview, and I got to interview Tom Izzo when Syracuse hosted part of the NCAA tournament a few years ago. Michigan State came here, and I got to talk with him, and that was awesome. So much fun, and so much respect for you, Mr. Izzo. So if you're listening, we appreciate you. Yeah, I mean, Tennessee, I think Tennessee's going to – listen, I want FAU to win. I want FAU to win this game. They're coming to the American Athletic next season. I'm going to be covering them for forever and a day. I've had their AD on the show. Shout out to Brian White. I, have had the opportunity to have Dusty May, their head coach, on the show after the team won their first ever conference tournament game in the NCAAs. How about this? The year that they win their first ever NCAA tournament game is the year they're going to the Sweet 16. So FAU's got nothing to lose. They are the seed here, number 9, the highest seed here. Well, depending on how you look at it, high, low, sometimes low number, people say. So whatever you call the seed, but they're a high seed is number-wise, so they're the highest seed here at 9. So, I mean, FAU to me, I think Tennessee has a really good shot of winning this game. I really do. And at the same time, FAU, I think, is a strong team. I have nothing to lose in this bracket because I got nobody left. So for me, and I want to give a shout out to Kansas State. Fantastic play. They knock out Kentucky. Kentucky hasn't been themselves in the last few years. The one and done thing isn't working. John Calipari isn't getting the same players he was getting. NIL is probably going to continue to change that in the wrong direction for him. So if I had to choose today, feet to the fire, let's do it. Why not? Let's have some fun with it. I'm going to pick FAU to continue their magical run, and I'm going to pick Michigan State, where Tom Izzo would have to take down a team who has never won a tournament game until this season. So I think it's going to be Tom Izzo, Dusty May against each other for the right to come out of the bracket that I called and deemed the craziest bracket of the picks for Ross and I, and it turned out being crazier than the crazy that we put on paper. So if you thought our picks were nuts at the beginning of the drive, well, look at what happened. FAU, Tennessee, Kansas State, Michigan State. I would challenge anybody to show me these 4, and if you do, send it to me, let me know, and we'll shout you out on the show. But Ross is going Tennessee, Michigan State. I'm going FAU, Michigan State, and I think Michigan State will go back to the Final Four. It's crazy. It's exciting. And how about this? Again, for the second year in a row, I got to say this, no disrespect. I'm not saying this disrespectfully. I would say this about any conference that had an unfair advantage. Once again, for the second year in a row, they tried to put in the entire Big Ten, which has 14 schools, mind you. They tried to put the entire Big Ten into the NCAA tournament, and once again, the Big Ten did not show up. Okay? They did not show up. When you look at the Sweet 16, folks, and you look at what is left in this tournament, the Sweet 16 as it stands today, when you're trying to put every freaking team in there of the Big Ten, you got Michigan State from the Big Ten. Congratulations. Okay? That's what you got in the Big Ten, and that's it.
The underdog. Yeah, that's the only one. All the big ones are knocked out.
Everybody's gone.
It's
This
crazy.
is what you have. This is what you have. You have one Big Ten school. You have 3 SEC schools: Arkansas, Tennessee, Alabama. You have one school from the Mountain West in San Diego State. They're champion. You have one school from the West Coast Conference, Gonzaga. You have one school from the Pac-12, which has been weak over these past few years, in UCLA. You have one school from Conference USA in Florida Atlantic. You have one school from the American Athletic in Houston. You have one school from the ACC, and you have 3 Kansas State from the one school from the Big 12. Okay, one school from the Big 12. Everybody up on the Big 12, or 2 schools from the Big 12. You have Texas, I didn't say that. So you have Texas from the Big 12, and you have Kansas State. So you have 2 schools from the Big 12, and you have one school from the Ivy League in Princeton. The conference that has the most schools in the NCAA tournament, there are conferences that get a lot of teams in recently now. The SEC, the Big Ten, the Big East. Well, the Big East has come to play. They have 3 schools in the Sweet 16. They are one school shy of having a quarter of the Sweet 16. That's just theirs. Creighton is in, Xavier is in, and UConn, all in the Sweet 16. So you look at this and you say, okay, somebody's stroking the Big Ten in the college football playoff. They're stroking the Big Ten in the NCAA tournament the last 2 years. And there's one team left from the Big Ten. And a bunch of these schools have won. The SEC and the Big East, look at what they've done. The SEC, ton of teams getting in. They got 3 teams going to the Sweet 16. The Big East, though, because everybody's talking about the SEC, everybody's talking about the Big Ten, let's talk about the Big East. Xavier, Creighton, UConn. 3 teams all in the Sweet 16. I want to give a lot of love and a lot of respect and a lot of kudos to the Big East because everybody's on the jock. I shouldn't say everybody's on the jock, but a lot of people want to tell me Big Ten, Big Ten, Big Ten, and I just ignore it because I say, okay, let's see what happens at the end of the year. And look at us in the end of the year. The Big Ten's got 1 representative. The Big East showed out. The SEC showed out. The Big 12 didn't show out as well as they were giving them teams for. But here we are, Ross. And the Big East, to me, good for them. Danger zone for a lot of schools out there. Xavier, tough out. UConn, tough out. Might be the toughest out of the 3 of them. And Creighton, here they are, getting into the Sweet 16. So I want to shout out the Big East and give them some love.
And as we mentioned, Rick Pitino's now coming back to the Big East to coach St. John's. So St. John's might make the Big East even better. And so they're going to be a really tough conference for quite a long time. 2 quick things I want to mention.
Yeah.
A big fan of Penny Hardaway in Memphis. It was my childhood idol. I love those commercials with Little Penny with Chris Rock's voice. Of course, he has this funny new comedy special where he talks about the Will Smith smack on Netflix. And so I love Penny. They really came close to win that game. I understand the frustration as a head coach where you lose a heartbreaking game, your season comes to end. He threw the water bottle. People were frustrated. You were talking about how many players does it take to call timeout right in front of a ref, and they didn't call it, and they didn't see it. So he lost a heartbreaker to Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic deserved everything they're getting. What a great run they were on. But I picked Memphis to win. I was hoping Memphis and Penny Hardaway were going to get done. They're a team on the up and come up. And I give a lot of kudos to Penny Hardaway, great young head coach. But they lost the heartbreaker, and I get the emotion when your season comes to an end on such a controversial, tough way to lose when he threw the water bottle in frustration. And then, I don't know your thoughts about it. And we talk about how overrated the Big Ten was in this tournament and Purdue getting knocked out.
Yeah.
It's become a regular, not necessarily a regular thing, but it's now not as insane. A number 1 team is not bulletproof against a 16 seed anymore. It seemed like it was a guaranteed, not just they would win, they'd win by 30 to 40 points every time. But now this is twice in 5 years. Virginia in 2018 lost to a 16 seed, and now Purdue lost to a 16 seed with Fairleigh Dickinson. A 16 seed, the little engine could, the David versus Goliath, they can win these games. I don't know what your thoughts about this. It's still an amazing story, a big news story that everyone's talking about. But that's pretty wild that a number 1 seed, it's not guaranteed you will get to the second round. A 16 seed has a great chance to knock you off now, and it's become a little more commonplace now twice in 5 years after it hadn't happened in many decades.
Yeah, I mean, we look at this, okay, the 1 seed versus the 16 seed. has 150-2 record all time. 150 wins, 2 losses. UMBC over Virginia, who was the number 1 overall seed there, mind you, and Purdue losing to Fairleigh Dickinson this season. Only twice has it happened. 15 seeds, they've done it before. Syracuse fans know it with Richmond. And this year, no 15 seed had ever won by 15 points. Largest margin of victory, Princeton. Again, I don't know why people were sleeping while they were commentating this game, because I would have been going out of my mind at this game. Princeton getting their win, moving on. They took down Arizona. Then they took down Missouri. They took down a Pac-12 team, and they took down an SEC team to move on to the Sweet 16. 15 seed, wins by 15, largest margin of victory. So, 150-2 record, pretty darn good record. But, yeah, I mean, the parity, listen, people are sticking around. Colleges are, listen, people want to go places where they can make a name for themselves. They want to play for a good coach. They want to play for something and build it together. Mark Few has done it. We saw Brad Stevens do it at Butler. We're seeing, Greg Marshall was doing a ton of work as well. When we were looking at Wichita State, there's a lot of teams that we've seen do this historically that have built up. We've seen the build-up of Creighton. We've seen the return of UConn under Dan Hurley. There's schools that are doing these really incredible things that maybe were blue bloods in the past that are back on the map, like a UConn. And, look at what Sean Miller's doing in his return to Xavier, because Xavier still, to a lot of people, is an underdog. So, to me, I love it. I think the parity is incredible. I think it's great to see people stay 4 or 5 years in college and get their degree, get their master's.
A lot of the big-time schools, as you mentioned before, like Calipari, Kentucky, even the last few years of Mike Krzyzewski before he retired at Duke, and their new coach did a decent job. They went on a nice run, won the ACC Conference Tournament after having a mediocre regular season and before they lost to Tennessee in round 2. But for a while, Duke at the end with Coach Krzyzewski and John Calipari, and a lot of the marquee schools have so many one-and-done players who want to go off to the NBA, and a lot of them don't even quite make it in the NBA because they're such unproven players, and they go before they're ready, before their season, and they're actually ready to compete at a high level against other grown, big, strong men in the NBA. But I think it's a big advantage, as you say, parity, that now those schools that want to have all the one-and-done players in the NCAA tournament, where it's a one-and-done, where anything can happen, in one game you can get knocked out, these schools that have cohesion and have guys who've been there for 3-4 years together, I think have a great chance to pull off an upset. If you have a good coach who knows his X's and O's and is a great leader, and then has them buy in the players who are there for 3 or 4 years, rather than a guy who has half his foot out the door because he's looking to the next level to go to the NBA in a few months, is only there for a year. I think it's a great advantage for guys who have veteran upperclassmen leadership, who are good players, who are good three-point shooters and can get it done, and they can pull off upsets against these one-and-done alleged powerhouses, quote-unquote, and it's happened more and more, and I think that adds to the parity, and that's why we're going to see more 16 seeds knock off 1 seeds, more 15 seeds knock off 2 seeds, and more like mid-major, smaller schools from the Ivy League and from all the other conferences be able to knock out the traditional big power conferences. I think you're going to see more and more of it the more we do this one-and-done nonsense, because it's kind of crazy. At least in college football, they have to stay 3 years after they graduate high school. In basketball, it's just 1 year. And, I guess it's better than going right out of high school, but it's just so quick. And now there's guys who don't even do the 1 year. They play in some of these European leagues or other professional leagues for the 1 year until they can go out into the NBA draft. So it's a big advantage if you can get a good, cohesive unit and build that chemistry for 3-4 years, rather than a team of guys who are there for 1 year and their heart's not fully in it. They're looking to go to the NBA and get their big payday rather than win the national title as their ultimate goal.
Yeah, so I want to give credit where credit's due, and much appreciation for Fairleigh Dickinson and Tobin Anderson and everything that he and his staff and everybody put together. Much love and much respect to them, and just awesome work. And a shout out to UMBC. Love seeing them on social media and all the things that they do. They have awesome social media people, and the posts they put up and saying like, hey, we have a friend now. So a lot of cool stuff. So big shout out to that. Ross and I will continue to bring you through the tournament. We got the Sweet 16 starting on Thursday of this week. A lot of great stuff coming up Thursday and Saturday. And then we head to the Final Four after the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight. And then we'll have the National Championship game on that first Monday in April. So a lot of awesome games to come.
I'm like you, though. I'm still saying Houston, no matter what, like the draft day movie, I'm still sticking with my pick that we made last week. I think it's going to be Alabama now, Michigan State, not Marquette, who got knocked out. I think it's going to be Alabama versus Michigan State in the one semifinal in the Final Four, Houston versus Gonzaga in the other Final Four that we predict right. We have 75% of the Final Four, 3 of the 4 teams that they're still alive for the Final Four. I think Houston will beat Gonzaga, Alabama will beat Michigan State, and I'm sticking with them. Houston no matter what. Houston Cougars, Calvin Sampson, the number one team, I think the best team throughout the year, most consistent team in all of college basketball, will knock off Alabama Crimson Tide, and the Houston Cougars at home in Houston, Texas, will win the national title and cut down the nets on Monday, April 3rd, just 2 weeks from today. It's hard to believe, as exciting as this tournament's been, it just started, and there's still a few more rounds to go. 2 weeks from today, it's over. College basketball is done. So I still say Houston, no matter what. I believe, just like you said, I'm picking the Cougars to knock off Alabama. And my pick has not changed. I'm unfazed. It's been exciting to see the upsets, but I'm still picking that Houston's going to prevail when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I mean, you guys saw my napkin here. You saw my note. Houston, no matter what. I had this here before my bracket was unveiled to the world. Houston, no matter what, and it sits with me while I watch the game. So let's make me right, Calvin Sampson. Let's go do this thing. And I'm wearing my Doctor Strange shirt because it was fitting. This tournament has been so very strange. I said this year, going into the tournament, I said like weeks and weeks before the tournament, months, I said this might be the craziest March Madness we've ever seen, where literally anybody could win. And look at it. Have I been wrong? No. So here we are in the Sweet 16, and there's a bunch of these teams that could be cutting down the nets. I got Houston, no matter what. Ross and I both pick Houston. And I would think, Ross, we did okay. 360-plus schools, and you and I have 3 of our 4 Final Four in the Sweet 16. So I would think that this has been a win for us in the drive this year when it comes to predictions.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one that we got wrong, you can never count out Tom Izzo. No. He finds his way in the Final Four, and who would have thought another 16 seed would knock off a 1 seed? So that's what happened in that crazy East bracket. So that's the only bracket we got wrong. I think we're gonna get a lot of the picks right, like we already have. But I love the mayhem. I love all the chaos, and I love the madness of March and all the crazy Cinderella stories and the buzzer beaters and all the shocking stories. I'd love to see Princeton keep going. I'd love to see Florida Atlantic keep going, and I would love to see these little underdog teams. I want to see them keep prevailing and cause a ruckus against all these major conferences, because I think it's exciting to watch, and it makes it so fun to watch how unpredictable it is. Because unlike as cool as to watch a movie or a Broadway play, that stuff's set in stone. There's a script written. I know there's conspiracy theorists in the NFL for football and basketball. They believe that people have exactly in their mind, the commissioners, they've picked who's going to win, and it's all been decided. I think that's bogus. The only thing that's predicted, the only thing that's guaranteed to win is in pro wrestling, which is the fake wrestling, WWE, where the old school where Vince McMahon was running things, they would pick who's the champion. But in real professional sports and in college sports, what's so exciting about it, it's so unpredictable. And as much of a cliche it is, it's very much every given Sunday, anyone can win. Anyone can win in this tournament, and I love that it's single elimination. You have to be on your toes, because if it was a best-of-7 series, the top teams would probably win 9 out of 10 times. But because it's not a best-of-7 playoff series like in the NBA, one chance, all it takes is that one shining moment. These little small schools can win with some of their players who've been around there for 3-4 years and have the experience. So I just love it. And I hope there's more chaos, more upsets. And we're down to 16. We got the Cinderella slippers are still on a few teams, and I hope they can continue. As much as I want our picks to be right, there's a little part of me, the little devil / angel off my shoulders, like I want more chaos. I feed off the chaos. I feed off the anarchy of this March Madness tournament, and I hope the madness can continue. And I want to see some more upsets along the way before the nets are cut down in 2 weeks.
Houston, no matter what, it is right here for you folks on my napkin. Houston, no matter what, and I have held on to this.
Houston, you have a problem, because anyone who plays
Got it.
Houston's going to have a problem. I think the Cougars are going to win it all. I agree with you, bud.
Yeah, and listen, may the only craziness in your life be madness, and may the only madness be in March. With that being said, Ross, I appreciate you. I love you, brother, and I will talk with you very soon. The only way that I can truly thank you for being part of the drive and being part of my life for so many years is by saying, Jamie!
Yes, and definitely not the madness of your internet provider, as you said. You don't want the internet or cable company to kind of mess up either. But I will wrap up the show by giving you a very big an air virtual hug through the phone and scream out, 1, 2, 3. And as the late great Joker Heath Ledger would say, here we go. Jamie!
So I picture LJ looking up at you while he's playing with toys, being like, my dad is crazy.
Like I'm a complete psychopath, and then that he better run away from me. He looks terrified right now.
Yeah, but you know what? It probably gets him to stop. So that's a good thing. So with that being said, Ross, as always.
I want to know what the room we're in looks like right now. He's caused chaos for these 2 hours.
Yeah.
But now that we're wrapped up, I can clean everything up before Mommy gets home.
You know me,
That's
really.
what we gotta do. You gotta be like Home Alone. You gotta clean up before the parents.
The funny thing is, he's got like spaghetti sauce on his face. There's crayon marks all over the wall. And he turns and looks at you, and you're like, I went to the bathroom for 5 minutes. How could you do this? Like, what are you doing? And then if LJ looked at you and he said, I just want to watch the world burn.
He just rubs soap everywhere, dishwashing detergent. It's insane what he does.
He's
right
a little
now,
joker.
it's not as bad as that, but it's pretty chaotic, this room. So it's time for Daddy to clean now.
Well, go do that. I don't want to get you in trouble. Abby, if you're listening to the show, none of that happened. Ross has kept the house clean the whole time.
That Men in Black thing with that little thing, the light flashes, and it erases all memory. None of that happened. Whatever I said didn't happen.
Yeah. So with that being said, we'll bid you adieu, but we'll talk with you very soon, buddy. I appreciate you. I love you, and I'll talk with you in just a little bit.
Thank you, buddy. It's an honor to be on your show. I love you. I can't wait to be on again, and you're the best in the world. Better even human. You're great at this, but you're even a better human being, a better friend than all the great stuff you do in sports. So keep it up. I'm glad you and your dad got to have that great bond and feel the dreams moment. I love you, bud. And one last time, Jamie! We'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care, buddy. Thank you. I appreciate you. See you. So that coming from Ross Turetsky. One more time, we'll take a quick step aside inside the Cafe Kubal Studios. We'll be back right after this to wrap up the show as your boy is heading out to Syracuse Pro Day.
Cafe Kubal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafekubal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Kubal needs. Cafe Kubal, coffee for the soul.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating. Find them at 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and all the time online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, you can order all throughout the country at maandpaspopcorn.com. And remember to get your tins, which have in-store half-price refills forever. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, available to you for fundraising and all of your events by calling 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
Witty Wicks Candles and Gift Shop, Township 5 Camillus, where you will find handcrafted all-natural soy wax candles over 60 cents to freshen up your home. We carry a wide range of locally made items, Salsa Q's, Syracuse Salt, and Chocolate Pizza Company, to name a few. Let our knowledgeable staff help choose unique gifts and keepsakes for any occasion. Gifts for family and friends, and maybe a little something for yourself. Witty Wicks Candles and Gift Shop, Township 5 Camillus.
This is a special message from Merritt Brady, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Watertown on 1290 Arsenal Street in Watertown, New York.
Chick-fil-A for me has always been about the people. I think it starts with the strength and leadership of the Cathy family. It's just amazing to see a family-run business reach the altitude that they have. Second mile service is something that we embodied at my previous business, and the ability to make people feel like they're the only person at your establishment, that you are there to serve them that day and looking for those extra ways to make them happy, to anticipate what they need next is what makes me tick. And I'm going to have so many opportunities at Chick-fil-A to do that. It's one of my favorite things to eat in the world. My favorite application question or interview question when I'm interviewing is when I get to, have you ever eaten at Chick-fil-A? And a smile hits both their ears. You know, they can't even answer the question for a second. And when I see that, it's like, man, that's going to be a great hire. They already get it. They already feel it. They already know that we're different. The Chick-fil-A experience, it's a real thing. And then, of course, just our generosity and community involvement and making a positive impact in the lives of our team members, our guests, and the community in general, I think is really the secret sauce.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios, hanging out with you where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And, of course, we're here with you on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /Wake Up Call DT, as well as on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. And, of course, you can hang out with us on all of those wonderful outlets, including facebook.com/live-now-DT. So however you're connected with the show, we can't thank you enough and appreciate you for being here as always. With that being said, also want to thank you all for joining us in the archive today, and very, very much happy to have Amazon Music, Audible, iHeart Radio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, MixLR, Player FM, Podbean, Podvine, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, and more, all having Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora at your fingertips from anywhere in the world. So you can find that by searching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT, on any one of these outlets. A big thanks to all of our fantastic and incredible partners: Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Witty Wicks, Avicoli's, PB&J's Lunchbox, Mon Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Chick-fil-A Watertown, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Mother's Cupboard, Great Lakes Honda City, Pizza Man, Chick-fil-A Cicerone, Chick-fil-A Clay, 317 at Montgomery. The name of the restaurant is the name of the location, 317 Montgomery Street in downtown Syracuse. And, of course, we're proud to be the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Time, first and third Wednesday of each month. We feature the AD and DT specials with Athletics Director Bob Beretta and myself, Dan Tortora. Every second and fourth Wednesday, we bring you the Dolphin Dive, diving into the stories of student athletes, coaches, administration, future Dolphins, and alumni. For all of that content, go to the Lemoyne tab on wakeupcalldt.com, bookmark it, save it, subscribe to it. And, of course, you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt and searching across our channel for all of our Lemoyne Dolphin coverage. For more information on your Dolphins, go to LeMoyneDolphins.com. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is also the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Bryan and Stratton Bobcats of Syracuse. Bryan and Stratton Bobcats of Syracuse, with national championship teams in men's and women's soccer, as well as teams that have made it to the national tournament in men's and women's basketball. An inaugural season happening now for baseball and esports. All these great things coming up in Stories with the Bobcat Buzz, student athletes and coaches. You don't want to miss a minute of it. You can check out all of our content that's been updated on the website on the BSC Syracuse tab on wakeupcalldt.com. You can also get it by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt and subscribing and searching Bobcat Buzz across our channel. For the Bobcats, getting a spotlight like they've never had before, don't miss a second of any one of these episodes by checking our Bobcat content, like I said, on the BSC Syracuse tab on wakeupcalldt.com, subscribing to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, and for more information on your Bobcats, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com. I want to thank you for being a part of the show. Fantastic to start off this week with incredible people. And how about this? 3 Marywood alumni, Brendan Murphy, Ross Turetsky, and myself, bringing you NFL moves as well as the NCAA Tournament. Continuing the drive, capital D and capital R for Dan and Ross, the drive coming to you of many, many years as we drive you through the entire tournament. Ross and I have 75% of our Final Four alive in the Sweet 16, 3 of our 4 Final Four, Alabama, Houston, and Gonzaga. So excited for that, excited to see what's to come, and excited to see more madness of March, and appreciate Brendan Murphy for joining the show, talking with us about those NFL moves, and excited to see what happens eventually with Aaron Rodgers once he finally makes his mind up, and let's hope once he does that he doesn't change it again. So with that being said, find us on Facebook at WakeUpCallDT, Twitter at CallDT, Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT. If you're jonesing for the tournament and you're missing it, subscribe to our YouTube channel and watch my Q&As with coaches and student athletes from all across the NCAA tournament on youtube.com/WakeUpCallDT. For now, God bless, no stress, do your best. We'll talk soon.